Hello everyone, we just got V1 of Robin in Aventurine SP, and they cut some really interesting kits. To start off, I actually want to talk about Robin, who's our next Harmony unit who's actually not Harmony, but rather Remembrance. Yeah, maybe we'll see Abundance or Harmony again one day, but today's not that day. Anyways, she fills a really interesting niche with people claiming her to be the Saber Gilgamesh Savior, an Aglaya upscale, or even really good for Himiko. And yeah, they're absolutely right. Not only that though, she's potentially the strongest buffer in the game. Wait a minute, didn't we just have Morton X Blade where I said the exact same thing? Yeah, we got another abomination on our hands. Potentially. To understand what I mean, let me first explain Robin's gameplay loop. Like Evernight, we start with her skill which summons the pink bird. However, if Bessie is around, we'll instead heal the burbs as well as gain 6 vibes. Now this leads directly to her talent, where depending on how much vibe Robin currently has, the more birds join the fray. We start with Bessie from 0 to 5, Drummy from 6 to 11, and lastly, the blue one at 12. All the birds just count as one single entity, so there's no need to overcomplicate it. And as you can see here, there will also be some other ways to gain vibes, such as an ally attacking or providing sustain. Now, once you get all 3 birdies, Robin will enter the fever state, start singing, and can't take a turn, similar to OG Robin. Here, she'll deploy a zone and shred the enemy's defense up to 40% based on her vibe. This in itself is really good and on par with the meta nihility units such as Morton X Blade or Welt. And this is still just only a third of her buffs. As for the rest, we have her Memo Sprite talent, which inflicts 10 to 20% vulnerability depending on how much birds are on the field. And for the most part, we should almost always be sitting at 20%. And lastly, we have her interesting Trace 1. Here, depending on if the ally has more or less attack than Robin, she'll either give them attack or crit buffs. Now, this is a pretty goofy trace because say you are an HP scaler but have too much attack because you got unlucky, well, you're now getting some more useless attack. Now, we of course can build around this, such as increasing Robin's attack, but it's not ideal. This was just something I noticed and thought I should bring up though. As for the actual buffs, it really depends, which matters a lot in our case. It's based on a flat amount plus how much vibe Robin has. In her ideal team and scenario, we can hover around 25 to 50 stacks of vibes. So with that in mind, if you get her attack buff, Robin's giving around 26 to 36% of her HP as a buff. And that is ridiculous. Using a 7k HP Robin as a reference, that's around 1820 to 2520 attack. And to put that in English terms, if we assume a base attack of 1202, we're getting around 151 to 210% attack. In other words, if we do convert it, that's around 226 to 315 crit damage worth of stats. In her ideal cases though, we can average the stacks to around 31% HP, or 2200 attack, or 270 crit damage. As you can see, when I put the numbers side by side to the other sub DPSs, oh yeah, she's a sub DPS too, well, it's currently a bit above Blade, who's currently the king of amping. However, that's only Robin's potential buffs. In reality, many teams, including the ones people want to see her in, such as Aglaya, Ashblade, or Sabergil, they do not reach these high amounts. From what I've seen so far, Remembrance can range from 25 to 50, Fate and Follow-up near 20 to 40, and it carries like Himiko 15 to 30. As you can see, it really varies. So if we average it for these other teams, let's just say 25 average stacks, it's still roughly 151-ish in attack. So for many teams, we're getting 151% attack, 20 vulnerability, and around 27% defense shred. This is basically Morton X Blade levels of stats, so if you have a team I'll later mention on, she's probably worth considering picking up. Now as for her other buff, if you have less attack than Robin, then you'll instead get a crit buff. And here we're averaging around 75 crit damage, which when compared to the attack percent one, it is not even close. So while it's usable in teams such as Remembrance, just know that for attack percent scaling teams, it's far more efficient. Now before moving on to her next gimmick, here's her Memo Sprite talent. If you look here, we can see that when Robin enters her fever state, a countdown appears on the action bar. For this, just imagine Firefly's combustion state, and once it takes action, instead of losing all the birds, we instead just lose 50% of our vibe stacks with a minimum of 12. That's why earlier, when I was showing the math, I had a range of vibe instead of a set amount, but I did average it for simplicity's sake. Also, this is the only way for her to leave the fever state, which is when she drops below 12 stacks when the countdown passes. But for the most part, you should be able to keep it at high stacks, so Robin should have 100% uptime for the most part, unlike her OG form. After that, we have her 140 cost ult, which grants an ally 100% action advance and 20% under energy. Yeah, she basically just copied Sunday for this. What's interesting though, and unlike Sunday, there's no soft floor of 40 energy, it's just 20%. So if you got a low cost ult, then it's actually not too good, but for units like Saber, it's super yummy. Now earlier we saw how Robin can't really move because she's singing the entire time, meaning we're also lacking energy for the ults. However, that's where Trace 3 comes in. This trace unfortunately requires you to run a sustain, so if you wanted to go sustainless with Robin, don't pick up Robin. Anyways, this action advance being behind an ult instead of skill or charge is super nice for many teams. With Sunday, if the ally has too much speed, such as Aglaya, then speed tuning would become a nightmare. And with charge units like Mem, you can really mess up the advance and get no benefit if you time the charge wrong. But with Robin, it's super simple. You literally just press the button after the ally acts. It's really convenient, which I gotta give some points for. Now, there's not too much else to say besides that it's really nice. There's also this failsafe, I guess, which makes it so the action advanced ally can't advance another ally. The English translation for this sucked, so I had to look at the CN version for this. Now, lastly, what's her damage looking like? Well, for this part, thankfully, it's actually super simple. Once Robin enters the fever state, the Memo Sprites will appear on the action bar and have 180% of Robin's speed, but only 70% of her HP. Speed-wise, we actually build Robin with 0 speed to maximize her HP and buffs, but technically speaking, 156 speed is ideal for her personal damage. Anyways, in terms of scaling, she's dealing 210 to 1050% attack depending on the amount of enemies. On paper, it does look pretty meh, but it's actually on par with a 30 stack Evernight, so it's actually not bad at all. However, in terms of stat buffs, Evernight is quite a bit ahead. With Robin, we're getting 50 crit rate from Trace 3 and varying amounts of damage percent from 110 to 160, again based on her vibe. With all these different factors, her damage is looking to potentially be similar to Evernight's, but it seems that most people are building Fonoac or ER Rope, so not quite there. In a Remembrance team where there's quite a bit of buffs going around, she's going to be doing pretty solid damage, but in a team such as Aglaya or Fate where she gets like 0 buffs, her damage is going to be pretty negligible. So with all that in mind, she's sounding to be pretty solid. And if we take a look at the teams I believe she's good in, she has quite a bit of options. But from a glance and footage, her best team is looking to be the Ashblade duo, which by the way did not need any help. Her synergistic nature plus role makes her the definitive support for that team. Her second best team though is looking to be a sub DPS on the caster's team. At this point we have Cyrene, Evernight, Emblade, and now Robin. Legit, you can just mix and match and you'll probably get a pretty good team. But for reference sake though, if we were to remove Evernight, assuming we can maintain high stacks on the team, she's gonna result in less strain and personal damage, but trade that off for better team-wide buffs. For this next section though, these are 4 units where Robin is probably their best teammate. For Aglaya, it's pretty obvious. She can utilize the energy, she loves the action advance, and gets really high buffs. For the Fate units though, they can also utilize every aspect of her kit, and is shaping up to be RMC's replacement, who can now buff both allies. And yeah, that's Summer Robin for you. Overall, I think the selection this time around is pretty solid, as she's buffing the Fate units and Aglaia, who really need it, as well as being a fairly universal support for those who just want Robin. Overall, there's nothing overtly broken from first glance, besides these guys, again, who will now be even more OP than they currently are. Speaking of these two, wasn't there supposed to be a solo Elation DPS that should have slotted right in and make a new mono men team? Oh, that's right, Aventurine. However, unlike my OG theory video, he doesn't have any follow-up attacks. But hey, at least we got another version of our mono men team. Anyways, Aventurine is our next Elation DPS. However, he is feeling a bit uniquely. Instead of our traditional Elation DPS that wants to be on the battleship, it seems like Aventurines decide to branch off and play by himself. The question is though, how does he do it, and does he actually do it well? Well, like Robin, let's get through his playstyle first. We're actually going to start with his talent, as it basically explains everything. The main thing to note is this: Fervor. These stacks can be gained in multiple ways, but the first time we reach 10, we instantly launch an Elation skill, kinda like how Evanesia launches Master Fox after hitting 100 charge. And let's just call this attack Elation skill A. That said, we have a hard cap of 30 stacks, which you may expect to get another one at 20 and 30 stacks. But nope, the free Elation skill only occurs once. Everything after 10 simply stacks our count higher and higher. Instead, once Elation skill A is launched, this upgrades our next Elation skill via AHA instance to be an Elation skill B. Now this scaling is nigh identical, but now we get an additional bounce multiplier to the attack. And yeah, that's literally his entire gameplay loop. It's really that simple. Get 10 stacks, attack until AHA's turn, and then repeat. As for how Aven gets this fervor, it's after any ally attacks, with teammates making one extra one up to 6 times per Aventurine skill. As such, we can assume that he has quite a bit of synergy in teams such as follow-up, which I know many people were hoping for as they didn't want to fall into the Elation slop. However, that's where we run into some trouble. How can an Elation unit dealing Elation damage actually fit into a team with no Elation units? We're gonna struggle with AHA's speed, and not to mention the lack of proper buffs. But don't worry, as the devs actually did a pretty good job in solving this. With Trace 2, if he's with an Elation teammate, he gets more Elation. However, if he's the solo Elation of the team, he outright gives AHA speed, which completely solves the issue and feeds into his gameplay loop. Now, with this kit rundown, I can actually now judge his performance and overall kit as a DPS. Now, I believe conceptually, this Aventurine being solo Elation is a hella cool idea. This lets people play a more normal Elation unit who doesn't require the battleship team to function. And the fact that he can switch back and forth and actually play with multiple teammate types means more versatility, which is always a good thing. However, in practice, because of this inherent kit design to try to get the best of both worlds, it actually means that you'll never excel in either. This also means while he's performing okay now on Robin Soul's team, he's just gonna fall off in the future. Now, I don't think I've ever explicitly stated that a unit will fall off, but in my eyes right now, everything's pointing me towards another Jingliu or Finon 2.0. Sorry, Finon means. And this is because he currently has no way of actually excelling in the teams that he's intended to be played in. Let's look at his Elation variant. In his current kit, he has absolutely nothing that scales with Elation, and as a DPS, he's just a normal carry and no different than just Sparksy. And that's okay, but let's see what perfect synergy looks like. Evanesia, who directly scales off of the amount of Elation allies. If we have 4 Elation units, we quite literally are getting 4 times the amount of energy gained due to the relationship between Punchline and Certified Banger, not to mention all the other stuff. As such, each subsequent Elation unit that will be added is a disgusting power boost for Evanesia. But for Aventurine, he's not getting more attacks, more ults, more anything. Now looking at the follow-up variant, While other units are constantly pushing each other to the next infinite loop, Aventurine simply gets a few more bounces to his elation skill. He currently has no way of actually synergizing with the current follow-up team. This is a case of I need you, but you do not need me. And I can confidently say all of this because his multipliers tell you quite a story. When comparing to our current elation DPSs, also shout out to my boy Suyuki who helped me make this, saved me like 2 hours and a headache. Anyways, when we look at Aventurine's skill and ult scaling, he has by far the best normal multipliers, and his elation scaling is also among the best. So what does that exactly tell us? Well, we basically need crazy good scaling to make up the fact that we have no special sauce in either team variant. And in Star Rail, you need this special sauce. When looking at the Remembrance team, no individual unit has stupid scaling. However, their synergy is so ludicrous that they're still a top DPS team even after an entire year. Castress actually has mediocre scaling, but because of how she interacts with her best in slot team, she gets 0.5 turn ults and giga scales with harder enemies. But with Aventurine, fantastic scaling but no sauce. So to reiterate my point, Aventurine has good scaling but pretty bad synergy in his two main teams. While he's currently performing just fine right now, it makes his future pretty uncertain. It's the opposite of Asheville's beta where he was considered the potential man, but that just meant that he had room to grow. Also, just look how bad this meme aged. I'm pointing this out because I know it was directly about my Asheville beta video calling him good, and he was indeed Evernight tier. Now, that said, these multipliers are actually a bit misleading, and it's just another case of Evanesia. His elation multipliers are actually some of the highest in the game so far, so there's no issue there. However, it seems his normal damage scaling via his skill and ult may be a bit of a scam. Using Fribbles and as of version 1, we can see that his elation scaling is still a majority of his damage. This means that he gives zero poops about attack percent, damage percent, and just wants crit, elation, and debuffs. This also leads pretty well to his next issue, split scaling, and I don't think I've ever seen a successful case of split scaling in any Hoyo game, like ever. Now, for many cases where the two scalings are relative, the issue becomes that the DPS would only get half the benefit from above. However, in Aventurine's case, where he does predominantly elation damage, our issue is that many supports that he would like to use on his team actually aren't that good because there's giga wasted stats. For example, he actually can't truly use the new Robin because the attack percent is giga wasted. Blade's damage percent, which is a sizable amount, doesn't really matter anymore, and the list goes on. Speaking of Robin, please don't use the two together as of now. It's gigabait, and if we go by the damage scaling to where 10 attack percent rolls is equal to 1 crit, it's just not worth it. Now, to fix this issue, you can just copy Evanesia's version 3 and cut his normal scaling. In turn, we can just buff Trace 1 and add a clause such as an attack or damage percent to elation conversion, which should solve a lot of his jank in most of his teams. Now, to finish up Aventurine though, I want to cover his current teams. As of now, according to gameplay, his elation and follow-up variants seem to be pretty neck and neck, with both being pretty solid. So instead of talking about his elation team, which I mean you can just imagine Sparksy in his spot, I'd rather use the time to compare him with Robin in the Ashblade team. Unfortunately, instead of the Mono Men Dream, it's currently more like Duo Men plus Robin. Robin is indeed currently outperforming Aventurine in this team by quite a bit. She simply has the Giga Sauce that I was talking about, and it's simply just a perfect team. Using Asheville, Blade, Robin, and Hyacinth, we have Hyacinth buffing 3 units, and everyone else buffing the entire team, with all of them being a sub DPS in their own right. Now, there's also Giga Attack Frequency, which all 3 DPSs benefit from. Again, this is what we call a perfect team. But with Aventurine, we got a Giga Greedy DPS who's just using the Ashblade core for their buffs. The issue here is that the buffs are actually not that optimal for Aventurine at the moment, making them sacrifice their own damage for buffs that literally don't work for the DPS. Personally, I think Aventurine being a greedy DPS and not providing buffs is just fine. He doesn't need to be a sub DPS. He simply just needs the synergy and damage to back it up, which he just currently doesn't. While Ashblade feeds into him, he just doesn't return the favor that much. And I guess while we're at it, Aventurine also doesn't really have a good sustain right now. Huohuo and Dianheng provide nigh useless attack buffs, and he can't use Heisen's HP. And if there was an Elation Sustain, then you just want to play him in the full Yaoguang EMC and Elation Sustain comp instead of an Ashblade comp who wouldn't benefit at all from their buffs. As you can see, there's a whole lot of issues right now. Perhaps y'all got some pretty good ideas on how to fix this though. But to finish up, if I had to rate the units, Robin's easily a tier 0 unit in terms of performance and versatility. You just cannot go wrong with her. For Aventurine though, he's like the bottom of tier 0 in terms of performance right now, and likely not going to age too well as of version 1. But for what it's worth, it's pretty damn impressive how well he's performing right now, given how janky his current kit is. Now, I hope this video doesn't bring about any doom posting, as I simply just wanted to go over his issues analytically. I would assume that most of these issues would be addressed, but hopefully these other additions such as a stat conversion would be really nice to make him age well. Thankfully it's only just version 1, so there's bound to be hella issues. Unless you're Robin who's quite literally perfect, but that's okay. For every angel, there's bound to be their brick in crime. In all seriousness though, we can only go up from here. But it'd be pretty damn devious if Hoyo decided to give him the nerf hammer instead. Now, I highly doubt this would happen given the current circumstances, but it still is pretty funny to think about. And yeah, that's the whole video, which I hope it was pretty informative. I'll just use the remainder of the video just going over my plans for next week. I've been saving my Anomaly Arbitration, and I'd love to reveal my next 5-cost 3-star Super Wolf Cheese in Currency Wars. At the same time, I'd love to go over any Avin or Robin questions during the stream. I did present most of the info you would ever need in this video, but there's probably some other questions I could also answer. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. A like or sub would be nice, as it'll be like a little treat for me working on this video for 2 days straight. Besides that, peace.